Hello, everyone. Today we're going to work on adding, subtracting, and multiplying decimal word problems. Let's get started. First off here, we have Melissa. So Melissa purchased $39.46 in groceries at the store. The cashier gave her $1.46 in change from a $50 bill. How much change should the cashier have given Melissa? All right, let's go back through and read the problem again. So I see that this is how much she purchased the groceries for. And if the cashier gave her $1.46 in change from a $50 bill, that means she paid with a $50 bill. So for us to figure out how much change Melissa really should have gotten, we need to subtract these. So we have the $50 bill that she paid with minus the actual cost of groceries. So when we set this up, because we have decimals and we need to line up our decimals, I'm going to rewrite the $50 bill as $50.00 and subtract from that $39.46. When we do our subtraction, we're going to need to do some regrouping. We're going to need to do some borrowing, and we're going to have to go all the way down here to the 5 to borrow, which would make it a 4. And then we'd have a 10, but of course we need to borrow from that, making this a 10, but we need to borrow from that. And finally, we have enough. So 10 minus 6 is 4, 9 minus 4 is 5. Bring down our decimal point. 9 minus 9 is 0. 4 minus 3 is 1. My goodness, that's a big difference. So Melissa really should have gotten $10.54 back in change. That is a big difference from the cashier only giving her $1.46. Next one, carpeting costs $9.99 a yard. If Jan buys 17 4/10 of a yard, how much will it cost her? And make sure to round your answer to the nearest hundredth. All right, I want you to pause this video and see if you can solve it yourself, and then hit play and compare your work to mine to see if you got the correct answer, okay? So pause and solve this yourself. All right, let's review the answer. So we know the individual price per yard of the carpet. That would be $9.99, and that's per one single yard. But Jan is buying 17 4/10 of a yard. So if we want to know how much it's going to cost her, that's going to be the total. We're going to multiply these two values together. So we have $9.99 being multiplied by 17 4/10 of a yard. Remember that when we multiply decimals, we do not have to line up the decimal points, okay? If you do, it's actually going to make it a lot harder for you. So when we're multiplying decimals, we just set up the problem, multiply, and then we deal with our decimal point at the very end. So first, let's multiply everything by 4. So 4 times 9 is 36. Carry the 3, bring down the 6. 4 times 9 again is 36, plus that additional 3 would be 39. And then 4 times 9 again would be 36, plus the additional 3, 39. Now, before we can go on and multiply by our next number of a 7, remember, because we're moving over to the next place value, we have to enter 1 0 to show that we're moving over and now multiplying by the tens place in this case. So 7 times 9 is 63. 7 times 9 again would be 63, plus 6 would be 69. 7 times 9, 63, plus 6, 69. Now we're going to move over to our 1 and multiply everything by 1. But before we do that, because we're now 2 place values over, we have to enter 2 zeros before we do that multiplication. 1 times 9 is 9. 1 times 9 is 9. 1 times 9 is 9. All right, let's add them up, see what we got here. 6 plus 0 plus 0 is 6. 9 plus 3 is 12. And now we have 9 plus 9 plus 9 plus 1, and that would be 28. And then we have 2 plus 3 plus 9 plus 9 would be 23. 6 plus 9 plus that 2 is 17. All right, to determine where our decimal point needs to go, we need to come back and look at our original problem. So in our first number, we have 2 digits that follow our decimal point. In the second number, we have 1 digit that follows our decimal point. We add that together, and that means in our final answer, we need to move the decimal point 3 times, or another way to look at it is we have 3 digits following our decimal point. So 1, 2, 3, giving us $173.826. But of course, the reason why we want to round this to the nearest hundredth is when we talk about money, we only go to the hundredth decimal place. So if we're rounding to the nearest hundredth, that means we look at the next place value. So we look at that 6, and that tells us whether we round up or whether we round down. 5 or above, you round up. 4 or below is down. So let me say that again since I kind of stuttered. 5 and above, you round up. 4 and below, you round down. So because it's a 6, that means we're going to round up, giving us $173.82. Sorry, I didn't round up. 83 cents. My apologies, guys. So $173.83 is how much Jan is going to pay for her carpeting. All right, next up is we're talking about weekly salary here. So your weekly salary is $1,015. How much do you have left each week after you pay for the following? And here we have our cost of rent, cable, electric, and groceries. All right, once again, I want you to pause this video, solve the problem yourself, and then come back and watch the answer and see if you got it correct. And if not, it's a great way for you to have that work on your whiteboard or on your paper, and you can compare and see where you went wrong. All right, in this case, there's 2 different ways that we could do this. Either one, we could take our weekly salary and first subtract the rent, then take that total, subtract the cable, then subtract the electricity, then subtract the groceries. It's one way we could do it. Another way we could solve it is we could add up all of our bills. So we could add the rent, cable, electricity, and groceries, and then subtract that total from our weekly salary. Either way, you're going to get the right answer. Well, let's kind of do a mix of both. Let's start off and let's just see how much money we're going to have left after we pay our rent. So if we start off with $1,015, and we have to pay our rent, which is $443.50. 0 minus 0 is 0. Can't do 0 minus 5 in this case, so we need to borrow. 10 minus 5 is 5. 4 minus 3 is 1. Can't do 1 minus 4, so we need to borrow. 11 minus 4 is 7. 9 minus 4 is 5. So we'd be left with this much money after only paying the rent. The only downfall of this way of doing it is subtracting each time. Is when we subtract, as you noticed here, we might get into a lot of borrowing and it can get messy. So let's finish off the problem by using the other method. Let's now add up the rest of our bills, and then we'll subtract that from how much we have left over. So if we have our cable, and we add that to our electricity. 9 plus 2 would be 11. 9 plus 1 plus 6 is 16. 3 plus 1 plus 5 is 9. 2 plus 4 is, multiplied on accident, is 6. Now, if we add our grocery bill to that, $124.87. 1 plus 7 is 8. 6 plus 8 is 14. 9 plus 1 plus 4 is 14. 6 plus 1 plus 2 is 9. And then we have our 1. So for our cable, electricity, and groceries, it's going to cost us $194.48. So let's subtract that from our current total and see how much we're going to have left over after those 4 bills. All right, we can't do the 0 minus 8. We need to borrow here, making that a 4. 10 minus 8 is 2. 4 minus 4 is 0. Can't do the 1 minus 4. We need to borrow. 11 minus 4 is 7. Can't do the 6 minus 9. We need to borrow, making it a 16. 16 minus 9 is 7. And then 4 minus 1 is 3. So our final answer would be you are left with $377.02. So no matter which way you solved it, whether you did it like I did, where it's kind of a mix of the 2 methods, or whether you subtracted the whole time, or added your 4 bills and then subtracted, that should be the answer. So that's how much extra money you're left with at the end of the week. All right, we have 2 more problems left. So we want to find the perimeter of this rectangle below. Go ahead, pause the video, try to solve it on your own. All right, when we're finding perimeter, remember that perimeter is the measure of the outside of an object. So if we look at our problem here, that means we are going to need to add all 4 of our sides together to get our total perimeter. Or we could use our perimeter formula. So the perimeter formula for a rectangle is 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. Either method. Let's go ahead and do this way because it involves multiplication and addition, get to practice both. But just know that if you chose to add the 4 numbers up, 8 and 75/100ths plus 2 and 4/10ths plus 8 and 75/100ths plus 2 and 4/10ths, you'll get the exact same answer as, me doing it this way. All right, we can see here that we have a length of 8 and 75/100ths. And the reason we're multiplying that by 2 is, well, because there's 2 of them. And then we're going to add that to 2 times our width, which our width would be 2 and 4/10ths. And that is going to give us our perimeter. So let's come over to the side here and first multiply 8 and 75/100ths times 2. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 1 is 15. 2 times 8 is 16, plus 1 is 17. And then to determine where our decimal would go, remember we look at the original problem. We have 2 digits that follow the decimal here. We have 0 digits that follow the decimal in our second number, which means we need to move that decimal point 2 times. We need 2 digits after our number. So we can either write that as 17 and 50/100ths or simply 17 and 5/10ths. All right, let's do our second set. We have 2 lengths of 2 and 4/10ths, so we're multiplying that by 2. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 2 is 4. Now let's place our decimal. Our first number has 1 digit that follows the decimal point. Our second number has none, which means we need to move that decimal point 1 time. having one digit that follows our decimal point, and that is 4 8/10. All right, almost done here. We are going to add our two measurements together to give us that total perimeter. So 17 5/10 plus 4 8/10. 8 plus 5 is 13. 7 plus 1 plus 4 is 12. 1 plus 1 is 2. And when we're adding and subtracting, remember you carry that decimal straight down, giving us a total perimeter of 22 3/10 of an inch. All right, we have our final problem here. Dolores bought 15 party hats priced at 75 cents each and 15 noisemakers priced at $1.25 each. How much did Dolores spend in all? All right, just like all the other problems, guys, pause the video, work it out yourself, and then come back and check your work. Okay, if we want to know how much Dolores spent in all, that initially tells me, oh, I need to add. But we're going to need to do that. But if I look a little closer, we need to do more than just addition. We also need to do some multiplication because we know that she bought 15 hats for 75 cents each. So we need to figure out the total amount that she spent on party hats by multiplying. Then we know that she also bought 15 noisemakers at $1.25 each. So once again, we need to multiply to get the total for the noisemakers. Then we can add those together to give us her overall, amount of money that she spent. All right, let's start with our party hats here in red. We're multiplying 15 party hats times 75 cents here. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 1 plus 2 is 7. Then since I'm going over to my second number, remember that 0 there is your placeholder. 7 times 5 is 35. 7 times 1 plus 3 is 10. And when we add these up, 5. 7 plus 5 is 12. And we have 1125. To figure out where our decimal point is going to go, let's look at our original problem here. I can see my first number has 0 digits following the decimal point. Our second number has 2 digits that follow the decimal point, meaning in our answer, we need to move that decimal 2 times. And that works perfectly, so it's $11.25 for the party hats. Now let's figure out how much the noisemakers cost. All right, this time around, it actually matters which number we, put in our numerator. In our first one here, when we did the party hats, because we can rewrite the 75 cents as just 0.75, we have 2 digits in each number. So same number of digits, doesn't matter which one goes first, which one goes second. But with our noisemakers, it does matter because when you're multiplying, it's not that you want the larger value on top, it's that you want the larger number. So in terms of digits. So because our $1.25 has 3 digits, 1, 2, and 5, that's going to go first. And then our 15 that only has 2 digits, 1 and 5, is going to go second when we write our multiplication problem here. So whenever you're multiplying, whichever number is longer, so it has the most number of digits, always needs to go on top. All right, 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6. Now let's move over to our second number, add that placeholder of a 0. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 1 is 1. When we add that up, 5, 7, 8, and 1. Remember to figure out where our decimal point is going to be. We see there's 2 digits that follow the first number, 0 digits after the decimal point in the second number, which means we need to move that decimal point 2 times, giving us $18.75 for the noisemakers. But we're not done yet, because our question asked us, how much did Dolores spend in all? So she spent $11.25 on party hats, $18.75 on noisemakers. When we add that up, 7 plus 2 plus 1 is 10. 8 plus 1 plus 1 is 10, giving us an even $30. How about that? So Dolores spent $30 at the party store getting the hats and noisemakers. All right, I hope this video helped. Hopefully, as you were going through and completing the problems yourself, you were able to feel confident in your ability to solve word problems in real-world scenarios that require you to add, subtract, and multiply decimals. Bye, everyone.